in this budget week, in fact, he made a comment that if you want a dramatic budget, you should go back to the 90s. But coming to crypto, isn't that your next session, Sumit?
Exactly. He's giving me great food for thought for me and my next speaker. Now, whether you're a millennial looking to diversify beyond traditional asset classes, whether you're a Gen Z investor building a modern future-ready portfolio, or whether you're a Gen X investor keen to keep pace with India's rapidly evolving investment landscape, the opportunity set today has never been more exciting,
Absolutely.
Shivani.
It's very, very exciting, from the new age financial instruments to emerging asset classes. Investors now have a wide range of options to diversify their portfolios and unlock new avenues of growth. To help us decode some of the top hot investment themes shaping the market right now, I would like to invite Pranav Pagaria, SVP Finance and Strategy from CoinDCX, to share his perspective. And then I would also request, of course, Sumit is right there, my co-anchor Sumit, to moderate this fireside chat. Take it over, Sumit.
Thanks for that, Shibani. Pranav, you know, I had prepared a set of questions and we discussed also we'll be having this discussion, but we have to now start with what Mr. Naren said. And he's got a certain view on cryptos. I just want to get your view on cryptos, because he spoke about how, yes, cryptos are also volatile. Just get us your view from your side of the fence.
Yeah. So, you know, volatility is what, you know, people are generally wary of when they talk about crypto. You know, thanks to gold and silver, we don't have to explain it anymore. You know, it's the same market. So price action, you know, will keep defining how short-term dynamics are, but ultimately it's all about fundamentals. You know, what we say in CoinDCX, the biggest risk that we see is, you know, not volatility. It's actually emotion, you know, and emotion leads to typically one of the most extreme outcomes. You buy at the extreme fear and you sell. You buy at the extreme greed and you sell at the extreme fear. Now, that's what happens when people, you know, make decisions based on emotions and try to time the market. Crypto market, similar to equity market, and you know, pretty much different from, say, a commodity, which, you know, Mr. Naren mentioned that commodity doesn't have any yield, you know, no project, no income, etc. So no mechanism of identifying how to attribute value. It's not similar to a commodity. It's pretty much similar to an equity. And you know, there is a lack of education, understanding in the Indian market on how to value crypto. That pretty much results in people feeling that it's an asset which, you know, it's just based on price action and no internal intrinsic fundamentals.
So, you know, important point you spoke about, and of course, the oracle of Omaha, Mr. Warren Buffett, has also spoken about, you know, be fearful when others are greedy, be greedy when others are fearful. So yes, in that sense, there is commonality there. I know CoinDCX is doing a lot of these educational videos and other educational initiatives. Tell me a little bit about that, because exactly what you spoke about, it's important to keep the emotion out of the investing. Very easy to say, very tough to do, because
Absolutely.
I mean, if there is always a lot of emotion with money. But what are some steps that you are seeing to guide Indian investors on how to, you know, invest in crypto?
Yeah. So maybe I can talk about two things. One is, you know, the fundamentals of crypto, and second is how to keep a risk-first approach as against a return-first approach, right? People generally come to newer asset classes, digital age asset classes, with a short-term outlook, you know, of making life-changing gains, which is not the way you look at these markets. Now, historically, obviously, you know, if you look at Bitcoin, it has given returns, which is an IRR of north of 60% as compared to traditional equities and so on, where you get 13 to 15%. So it's certainly lucrative, and people would want to invest. But the fundamentals are the most critical thing to look at, right? Bitcoin is a digital gold, so I wouldn't say that it has a lot of fundamental backing. It goes on demand supply, but all the other assets, including Ethereum, right? There is a fundamental behind it. There is a chain known as Ethereum chain. There are projects. So the product is not embedded in the banking system, like your fixed deposits and so on. Even derivative, it is not so embedded. It is something which is different, and therefore a bit of complex or a out of the banking system concept. there is a need for financial literacy so that people understand what these products are and they are able to take benefit of it. As Mr. Narendra also mentioned that a portfolio should be well diversified. So there are various new avenues that are coming in the market, and therefore it is important that at scale we talk about financial literacy. At CoinDCX, our prime motto is to ensure that we give financial literacy to people about crypto so that they start looking at it as a new asset class which they can easily add to their existing portfolio. So yeah, I would say that, crypto, the kind of awareness it is, it's a positive shock to me. I would say there is a organic curiosity in the Indian market. Maybe I would want to talk about a survey. Chain Analysis is a global organization which does a crypto-related survey on an annual basis. And year on year, India has been rated topmost adopter of crypto. So therefore, the awareness about crypto in the Indian market is significant. And therefore, it is one of the very lucrative markets for various other crypto players who would want to set up their base in India and explore and optimize on this opportunity. So therefore, it is important that, and obviously it's a responsibility for us as CoinDCX being the market leader to promote financial literacy so that a systematic and a responsible investing is being done by people so that people are able to take the benefit of the returns here.
So are you saying that we could maybe look and see more players coming in, more competition for you for CoinDCX?
So we would say, see, equity market, as you said, there is a 50% awareness and still there are new players coming in. The market is very small, very nascent at this stage. New players are always welcome. As many players as you'll have in India, the market will expand because everyone will try their best to promote financial literacy awareness and try to make the market broader. So we are of the view that, as many players come, it will just expand the ecosystem.
It will always be better for the customer, the consumer. Yeah. What would you, if you're looking at your vision, kind of CoinDCX's vision also, like this survey, 15%, what do you think needs to be done both from a government or regulator point of view and industry point of view to make cryptos more and more a part of the Indian households' asset allocation? What more needs to be done?
Yeah, no, that's a very important question. I would say that there are three things that are to be done at a macro level. One is bringing in more clarity. Second is bringing in more confidence. And third is suitability. I'll talk about all three of them. Clarity is very critical. Now, I still see a lot of people in India talking about crypto as crypto is not legal. That's lack of clarity, right? Crypto is legal. CoinDCX being one of the biggest exchange in India, still people feel that crypto is not legal. So therefore, lack of clarity. From the government side, the expectation is to come up with regulations. We've seen regulations in multiple jurisdictions, including the US, UK, our neighbors, Middle East countries, Dubai, Bahrain, and so on. There are regulators, there are regulations, there are multiple companies who have licenses, and they are operating multiple institutions working with them. So from government perspective, it is very important to come up with regulations so that people understand that crypto is legal. While we are doing our bit, but if regulations are around, it'll make sure that people understand that it is legal and there is a wider participation from the institutional network also, the likes of mutual funds, insurance companies, etc. There will be a broader acceptance, which will improve the market dynamics for crypto. That is one. Second is confidence. Confidence has to be built by the industry. So we need to be very transparent. We need to be very high from a governance perspective, and we need to give that assurance to the investors that their money is safe. And if they invest with us, we are not a fly-by-night player, and we are here to stay with them for the long term for their benefit. And that is what we keep doing, and we'll keep accelerating our pace of doing it over the years. So we'll bring that confidence as industry. And third, most important, is suitability. Now, suitability is more from an individual investor perspective, and it essentially means portfolio economics, right? Anything that I would want to invest in should make sense from a portfolio economics perspective to me. What portfolio economics essentially means is that if I'm investing in a particular asset, the kind of returns I'm making, whether I'm able to take that money to my pocket or not. Crypto, unfortunately, there have been recognition from income tax, but it's been a punitive recognition, right? So a flat 30% tax, no set-off of losses, you don't get carry forward. So therefore, it doesn't fit, the tax framework doesn't fit the portfolio economics of an individual. So people are wary of investing because they do not get the returns directly coming in their pocket. In contrast, if you see the US, the International Revenue Services, IRS there, has come up with very clear regulations, which is at parity with equity. Similar with UK, where HMRC has regulations which are again at parity with equity. So therefore, portfolio economics, if you're investing for long term, you should not be taxed as much. So therefore, there is an intrinsic, intrinsic ability and a push for anyone to keep investing in that asset for the long-term perspective. So that portfolio economics for now, because of the tax regulations, is not working. So that has to change. There is a punitive recognition, but it has to become a parity going forward. So that recognition is again very important.
You know, you spoke about government recognition, all this tax angle. There is this new change that's supposed to come in from 1st April 2027, where Indian crypto exchanges will need to start sharing and receiving cross-border cryptocurrency transaction data. Now, obviously, this will help bring about transparency, will take us to the global stage, put us on the same global standards. But you know, on the other end, the budget has put in strict penalties for if any default happens in this. How are you getting ready for this change?
Yeah. So, I'd like to mention here that CoinDCX is the one of the most compliant exchange, because we always operate in a compliance-first manner as against a business-first manner. Financial Intelligence Unit, which is the AML watchdog of India, every crypto exchange has to be licensed by Financial Intelligence Unit, and there are significant compliances associated with it, which we are already complying with. This compliance is again in addition from an income tax perspective. There is already a reporting requirement which we do to income tax. This is in addition to it, based on the OECD framework, and therefore supports international exchange of information. We are pretty much geared up to do it even now, and it's a welcome move from us. So far as penalty is concerned, we are very happy that there are punitive provisions in the Income Tax Act, and these things basically help in two ways. One, it helps building confidence of people that if an exchange or an operator is doing something wrong, they are penalized. And second, it also makes sure that only the serious players stay in the market and thrive. So we are very happy with whatever new regulations have come.
Pranav, I'll ask you a little bit of a tongue-in-cheek question, all right? So to invest in crypto, it's a new age investment option. We admit that, we understand that. So definitely maybe the millennials, the Gen Z, the I don't know what now, the next Gen Alpha are more comfortable with this. But if I have to talk to someone, like, if we have to talk to the parents, our parents' age, what is your pitch to them about investing in cryptocurrency? How do you explain cryptocurrency to them and get them to put some money in it?
Yeah. So, whenever any new thing comes which you are not aware of, you are generally wary of it. The Harshad Mehta times of share market, people used to feel that is a gamble. So, it takes time for people to understand and adopt to new things that are coming in the market. But at the same time, it is essential to be a part of the portfolio so that you don't lose out on the opportunity. So there are two ways in which you can explain someone. One is that, you make them aware about it. So, they know exactly what this is and what is happening in the global markets and so on. There are a lot of people who are already investing in it. And second is that, they look at some experts, and if there are some experts who are already investing in this, they get confidence. So we try either of this, either you tell them that, these people who are experts, they understand share market and therefore they are also investing in crypto. So get validation from that, or you make them aware of how to make the investment.
Okay. When you talk about equities and share markets, there are broadly two kinds of players, two kind of retail players there. One are the long-term investors, जो basically पैसा डाल दिया, भूल गया, जब निकालना होगा देखेंगे 10, 15, 20 साल बाद. There are others who are day traders or who do FNOs to try and make money over the movements of the market. Do you see that in cryptos there can be these two similar kind of broad buckets of players, or is it better for people to just put money and just forget they have this until maybe 20 years later?
Yeah, it's again a very important question. So this market is extremely suitable for both the kind of investors. If you are a long-term investor, you could look at something like an SIP or stick to some of the themes that I spoke about, right, which are fundamentally good, and invest and forget. That's the way of looking at a cash market perspective. But if you are more of a trader or you want to, make that as your business, like possibly do a day trading, etc., The crypto market being global in nature, there are two benefits. One is it's a 24/7, 365 days market, right? So you are not subject to the shocks of the weekend and ultimately the things changing overnight. So that's the big benefit. And second is because it's global, the liquidity is enormous 24/7. So therefore, you get sufficient amount of liquidity to trade. These are the two things that a trader would typically need to trade. So therefore, it's equally good market for anyone who's doing in equity. Both the kind of investors can pretty much do the same things and better things in crypto as a market.
Okay, Pranav, before I let you go, last question. Are you able to give our audience, like for the earlier session, Aisha was trying to get Mr. Naren to pick one sectoral fund or things like that. Are you able to tell our audience where they can put some money to make a quick buck in crypto?
See, I would like to qualify by saying that there's nothing like quick buck. You might just get stuck when you start investing with that motive. But a general fundamental advice to everyone is that if you don't understand the market and you still want to start, Bitcoin and Ethereum are the best starting points. And SIP in Bitcoin and Ethereum as against timing the market, that is the best way to go forward from a long-term perspective.
So pretty much what has stood the test of time in other investment options, which is where invest regularly in a disciplined manner in SIP, that's the equivalent of what RDs are.
Correct.
In small amounts, keep putting for the long term. That could also work in crypto. Thank you so much, Pranav, for your time and for this enlightening session. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Well, Sumit, may I request you to present Pranav Pagaria with a token of our appreciation? Well, thank you so much for those sharp insights, some Shakespearean insights, I must say, like emotion in investing. Mr. Pagaria spoke about, speaking about how people buy with extreme greed and sell with extreme fear.